Everybody has their MTV. The vanguard of youth culture launched 40 years ago and has since influenced music, movies, TV, marketing, and even politics. That means that it's now reaching middle age, just like us chuggy millennials are about to. And as surely as the sun rises in the east, so too will pundits ponder its relevance to today's youth and complain that it just doesn't play music videos anymore. But millennials, MTV, is nothing if not creative and resilient, and it wouldn't be here celebrating its 40th birthday if it had just stuck to playing music videos. And because it consistently evolved to meet the demands of a notoriously fickle target market, it's become different things to different generations. If you're Gen X, you probably remember it as a channel that gave you Madonna or Cyndi Lauper or hair metal bands, or where the music video found its form. Millennials know it as the channel that gave us Pimp My Ride, TRL, these grown men hurting each other for money, and this grown man hurting other people for money. And if you're younger, you probably know it more as a reality TV brand. So grab your shoulder pads, your flannel shirts, or your hip huggers, and let's travel back in time and look at the ways that MTV has shaped pop culture. If we're going with this MTV as a millennial metaphor, then the 80s were its early childhood years. Experimental, surprisingly clever, and sometimes gross.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
MTV launched at 1 minute past midnight on the 1st of August 1981 with a channel ident and a choice of music video that were truly inspired. The channel was a joint venture between Warner Communications and American Express, and the idea was to run it like radio on TV and sell advertising aimed at what they thought was an underserved market at the time, suburban 14 to 25-year-olds. But things didn't exactly work out as planned. No one at the time thought that anybody would watch a 24-hour music channel, so cable carriers just didn't bother carrying it. And there just weren't that many music videos around in 1981. The channel launched with about 250 of them. And because it wasn't available in many areas, advertisers largely ignored it, and it nearly shut down in its first year. But while the adults in charge of advertising and cable companies weren't looking, record labels started to notice something. Singles which had videos that played on MTV started to climb the charts in regions where the channel was available. Record companies realized that music videos could drive sales, so they started making more of them. Pretty quickly, MTV developed a loyal audience wherever it was available, and it had a hot new product for them: music videos. But to stay on air, it needed advertising dollars, and to do that, it needed to be seen in more places. So at the 11th hour, they came up with this infamous ad campaign.
I want my MTV!
I want my MTV!
Call your cable company and say, I want my MTV!
Reportedly, cable companies were so overwhelmed with calls from teenagers demanding the MTV, they started adding the channel to their system lineup as soon as they heard it was playing. If it wasn't for this ad campaign, MTV might have turned into a footnote in TV history. Instead, it turned into a driving force in the music industry, and it ushered in a brand new pop culture icon: the music video star. Before MTV, music videos were niche. They were mostly played in nightclubs which had video equipment, or sent to faraway places that were too difficult to include in a tour, like New Zealand. Thanks. But when the impact that music videos had on sales became clear, record companies started pouring dollars into production. At the beginning, MTV had a hard time even convincing record labels to provide them with music videos. By the mid-1980s, record companies were clamoring to get their videos played on heavy rotation. Budgets grew, ideas and hair got bigger, and the madness peaked in the 90s with videos like November Rain, Scream, and Express Yourself costing millions to produce. And it wasn't just the artists and the record companies who were benefiting. Directors who got their start in music videos during this era include David Fincher, Spike Jonze, Michel Gondry, and Michael Bay. By the mid-80s, MTV had clout, it had money, and it had an aesthetic. It also had a sense of humor. When MTV Europe launched in 1987, the first music video played was the Dire Straits' Money for Nothing. And that's Sting repeating the line he'd read 5 years earlier, which had saved the company. It had given the stagnating American music industry a boost by creating a whole new product and a new mode of marketing. And it was about to do the same for the movies. The 1983 film Flashdance is about a teenage welder who works nights as a dancer and dreams of a career in ballet. One night, her much older boss sees her dancing and starts making unwanted advances towards her at work. She notifies HR, who believe and support her. They then implement an anti-harassment training program aimed at educating the mostly male workforce about abuse of power, creating a safer environment for everyone. Just kidding, it was the 80s. They bang, they fight, he helps her get into dance school, they kiss, the end. Anyway, the movie had a small budget, so not much marketing was put behind it. But what it did have was several sequences that were shot and edited like self-contained music videos. The film studio, Paramount, sent those clips to MTV, which played them on air. It ended up being the third highest grossing film in the US that year and bringing in over $200 million worldwide. Its budget? $7 million. Film studios took notice and started replicating this method to appeal to the youth, which is partly why so many 80s movies have these random pop music breaks. Some were good. Some were bad.
I'm king, and they know it. When I snap my fingers, everybody says short.
And some were just plain thirst traps. Soon it became almost obligatory to release a music video to promote a major motion picture, a trend which peaked in the 90s with stone-cold hits like Men in Black, Independent Woman, and of course, this era of filmmaking is often referred to as having an MTV aesthetic due to the quick cuts, special effects, and the foregrounding of pop music. The granddaddy of movie critics, Roger Ebert, got so sick of it that he complained after watching Rocky IV, "There are endless unnecessary songs on the soundtrack. Half the time we seem to be watching MTV."
Keep your nose clean.
Okay, you heard it from him.
The 90s were MTV's stroppy teen years, when it developed its own distinct personality and rebelled against everything that was expected of it. Young Americans had also become jaded, especially with politics. The decade of excess, Cold War anxiety, and Ronald and Nancy Just Say No Reagan saw record low youth turnouts during presidential elections. Enter Tabitha Soren and Choose or Lose, a multimedia campaign that aimed to engage young people with politics by doing the unthinkable: taking them seriously. The campaign included segments explaining political terminology and televised town halls in which both main presidential candidates were invited to face questions from young people in the audience. George Bush, a charisma vacuum who was rapidly losing popularity after saying this:
Read my lips. No new taxes.
and doing the exact opposite, and then declaring war on Iraq, declined. Bill Clinton agreed and gave a really convincing performance as a reliable, honest guy. Much better than the performance he'd give later.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The campaign contributed to the largest turnout among young voters since 1972 and won a Peabody Award. Some have argued that the campaign contributed to the dumbing down of politics, but these arguments come around every time that politics, media, and technology find a new way to intersect. And there are many, many other reasons why in 2016 Americans chose a reality TV star as their new president. Speaking of which,
This is the true story. True story.
7 strangers.
MTV wanted to create a soap opera, but without the expense of scripts, actors, production, etc. Eventually, the idea mutated into something deceptively simple. 7 strangers, each with carefully selected personas, sharing a loft in NYC. Whether you grew up watching The Osbournes, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Love Island, or The Apprentice, this is where the unstoppable genre of unscripted entertainment began. The Real World was truly revolutionary. Its unvarnished nature made it a platform for topics that young people really cared about, but which regular network TV still considered taboo. The original cast of 20-somethings had conversations and confrontations about class, race, and sexism.
How many times have you been stopped and spread against the police car, honey? How many times? How many times?
I've never been stopped.
All right then. You don't know how it feels then. Do you understand what I'm saying?
The 3rd season featured Pedro Zamora, an openly gay, HIV-positive Cuban American, and showed his commitment ceremony to his partner years before California legalized gay marriage. The show was proof of concept that the mundane, with the right editing, music, and cast, could be entertaining.
Welcome back to House of Style from Paris, where we're now at Place de la Concorde.
MTV in the 90s went through a massive era of diversification. Music videos and music-centered programming were still ostensibly its focus, but young people aren't exactly known for liking the same thing that the previous generation liked before them. So it had to adapt or face becoming a nostalgia channel. When it launched reality TV, it helped push its original star product, music television, out of the spotlight. And really, this couldn't have come at a better time because the internet was about to make record sale revenue a thing of the past and create a demand for loads of new content. MTV entered its 20s the same way I did, drunk, full of itself, and looking for ways to push the boundaries. The apex of this vibe was shows like Jackass and Punk'd. Jackass fits into the grand tradition of stunt videos, but with an added gross-out factor that seemed to be an obligatory part of youth media at the time. You can see the DNA of these shows in stunt, fail, and prank videos all over the internet, and Punk'd, which I genuinely thought had died with the 2000s, has even been rebooted by subscription service Quibi, though there have been complaints that the pranks are now too watered down. Which, like, yeah, I think we're all trying really hard to not be as dumb and as mean as we were in the 2000s. Reality TV also evolved during the decade. It started as a way to make drama on the cheap, but its popularity turned it into another marketing tool for pop stars, just like music videos in the 80s. Accessibility into their private lives became a new part of the package, a demand which is still there today.
Is this chicken what I have, or is this fish? I know it's tuna, but it says chicken.
And before the global financial crisis plunged millions into crippling debts, ostentatious displays of wealth, not to be confused with taste, were also a vibe. MTV Cribs aired from 2004 to 2010 and basically set the template for celebrity house tours like AD Open Door and 73 Questions with Vogue, and also SpawnCon. Remember vitamin water? And while reality TV provided a career boost for pop stars, it created another new type of star.
Hello, party's here.
The party's here?
How are you? We're cool. Hug.
Nice to meet you,
How are
baby.
you?
The success of Jersey Shore launched careers, several spin-offs, and marked a turning point for MTV during this decade. Music had long since stopped being the focus of its programming, and in 2010 it officially dropped the words music television from its logo. MTV Networks produced a number of scripted TV shows, but their biggest success throughout this period has been in unscripted TV. Shows often hosted by the very people whose careers the format launched. This was also the decade when the internet blew up youth culture into thousands of fragments and spread them all over. MTV has been pretty good at reacting to shifting viewing habits by embracing new social platforms and dropping them when they lose popularity. Remember Snapchat? Well, too bad, now everyone's on TikTok. It's not so much influencing trends. In fact, there's really no one thing that's influencing pop culture the way that MTV did in its first 20 years because the world is very different. But it is doing a really good job of responding to trends. When the recent wave of 90s and Y2K nostalgia started, MTV recognized its role at the epicenter of pop culture of that era and began rerunning and rebooting properties across its platforms. My happy place is the MTV Vault YouTube channel, watching Britney Spears shake hands with a 4-member Destiny's Child and imagining being in that room during what is absolutely the best era of pop music. There's this thing that happens every time MTV reaches a milestone. Pundits ponder its relevance to today's youth, citing increasing competition for their attention, and complain that the channel is out of fresh ideas. But I think what they're really complaining about is this. MTV getting older reminds us that we are also getting older. The passage of time is unstoppable. Everything in life is temporary, and the only certainties are death and taxes. Trend cycles get shorter, and the next thing you know, there's a whole generation of people reviving the fashions of your youth, but doing it better. And being reminded of your own mortality, even in this stupid, capitalistic, shallow way, sucks. So maybe what those pundits are really lamenting is the passage of time and what that signifies. Maybe what they're really saying is, I want my MTV.